Louis-Jacques Dorais, you've spent your whole life immersed in the languages and stories of Arctic communities. What first drew you north, and what's kept you coming back all these years?
What brought me north was purely chance, I was studying, I had chosen to study anthropology that was back in 1964, 65, here at the Université de Montréal, in Montreal here. And I think I was willing to know about other population, other people other than mine. And I was ready to go anywhere in the world, I suppose, as far as possible. But then we had an offer, maybe in the middle of the school year. They said they could send 3 students to Nunavik. That was what was called at that time Nouveau-Québec, north of Quebec. And I said, okay, I'll give my name. Why I'll go there? Okay, of all place, it should be okay. So I was there, and so I happened to get into an Inuit community, which was Quaqtaq. We'll speak about it later on, I guess. And yes, I spent a whole summer there from late May to late August or first days of September. I had to go back to school in Montreal. And I liked it, of course, liked the people. And the next year I came back. So that's why. And this maybe it's in my character to, I don't like to change things, I don't like new. So when I begin something, I'll continue. So I continue to work with the Inuit, with the language and the culture or whatever for all my life. So it's, I think 60 years now. So that's how it is.
Wow.
So what was it like to land in Quaqtaq? And if you could tell us the journey itself, because back in those days, it was really difficult to fly to these Arctic communities. So, can you tell us about that?
Yes, I'll tell you about actually, we flew from Montreal to Quaqtaq. There was already, I think, probably one flight a week from Montreal to Quaqtaq. And arriving in Quaqtaq, it was raining. It was May. It was spring starting, but raining. And the streets were muddy street. There was no asphalt. And I said, gee, where am I? I'm in the third world or whatever. And there was many buildings in Quaqtaq had been built during World War II, and there was an American air base there. And these were old American buildings from the 1940s. Mm-hmm. And but what my first impression was that actually, we were brought to the Roman Catholic mission, where the French-speaking people there, and
it still stands.
It still stands, yeah. Oh, it still stands. Mm-hmm. And when there in the mission truck, and there were some young Inuit children there, and for the Inuit children, they were laughing and going. I said, "Gee, these guys are all even if they live in so bleak an environment, they're just happy and things." So that's what my first impression. And then I had to go, of course, from Quaqtaq. Montreal Quaqtaq was okay, but then there was no regular plane service to the villages, to the communities north of Quaqtaq. So we had to wait to see if there was a government flight, a federal or provincial government or whatever flight to a community. And then if there was, the great thing it was free. We didn't have to pay. We just had to go to see the hitchhiking. Yeah, you're right. Just got to see either the federal agent in Quaqtaq or respondent, or the provincial agent, and say where will there be a flight, and where I'm a student, and going there to Quaqtaq, and they would say, okay, we'll tell you if there's a flight. Then they would say, yes, maybe in a week or two. And I think I was with another student who was going to Kanyaksuk, and I was going to Quaqtaq, bound for Quaqtaq. And then it's, after, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks, there was, I think it's the No, it was actually there was a flight going to Quaqtaq. And they said, okay, you can get on that flight to Quaqtaq, and then when you get there, but you'll find either Kamutik or Skidoo. Skidoos were beginning, not very much. There were some few Skidoos going to Quaqtaq. I said, okay, get there. And
you were so brave.
Yeah, I said, but that was just wanted to, when you're young, you don't, you're expecting anything and no problem. So I went to Quaqtaq. And then I went in Quaqtaq. It was the federal school teacher was more or less the head, or teacher head was in charge of government affairs in Quaqtaq. And I went to see him, and I probably stayed in his home and I said, I want to go to Quaqtaq. And he said, yeah, okay, there's two ways. You can get on, if there's somebody with a duck team going there, but the duck team, I'll tell you, you probably have to walk most of your way, because duck teams, we use it in the movies, they are just moving, they're running, they're high, but that's most of the time, it's not like that. You have to get out of the of the sled and just push to help dogs going. Okay, I don't mind, but probably fortunately for me, there was one family. It was, I think the UC Inuktitut, I think it was the guy who had the skidoo, and and I had some. They gave me some money to pay for my trip. So they said he has a skidoo and he's able to go get, and he found there's another skidoo. They will go, two of them, and you can go with them they will bring you to Quaqtaq. And then I said, okay, I have money.
Limousine service.
Yeah, it's limousine service, of course. And I said, how do I pay? But they say, just get to the Hudson. There was a Hudson Bay store in Quaqtaq at that time, the Hudson Bay store. You give your money to the Hudson Bay, and they will open you an account. And when you get in Quaqtaq, you just sign any scrap of paper where say, UC Inuktitut, and is allowed to get, I don't remember how it was, probably $50 for his trip. And when you get back to Quaqtaq, he'll go to HBC store and get some for $50 credit on his account. So that's how the things work at that time. And it was probably the last years it was like that.
Okay.
So I went to, after probably spent a couple of days in Quaqtaq, then we went, and on the same day we made the trip to Quaqtaq. And when we arrived in Quaqtaq, of course, nobody knew that I was coming. That would be impossible now. When you look before, especially to do research, you cannot just get out, drop out nowadays in an Inuit community. Mm-hmm. Say, okay, I am a researcher going, I have a project with you to study you. You would just be put on the next plane and get kicked out of the village, and for good reasons. But now, no. And then she brought me first to the Catholic missionary. He knew I spoke French. There was a missionary in Quaqtaq too, who was a Belgian guy at that time. And
Père Dion.
It was after Père Dion had gone the preceding year. It was Père Meus UZP was called. By Inuit called him UZP, which was his first name. And UZP said, but what the hell are you doing here? And said, you should have told us you're coming. And he said, you better get to the only other Khalunak in the village in Quaqtaq at that time. Beside him there was a federal teacher who was Orville Cassidy at that time, a guy from Saskatchewan, was in Quaqtaq to teach. And UZP, Father Meus, sent me to Cassidy and to the teacher, and Cassidy said, yes, okay, you're coming here, yes, we can get in with you. And I said, I want to stay with an Inuit family. And he said, you really want that? And they the Inuit, their homes are very crowded with many, and the small matchbox houses. And in Quaqtaq, there were not even matchbox at that. There were four widow women and people who didn't have anybody to support them. They were allowed to have a matchbox house from the federal government, but other people in Quaqtaq just built their own houses from scrap, with cabins. And he said, you won't stand it. You should not. I don't see you living with an Inuit family. And then I said, he's probably right. And he said, the federal government, we have a matchbox house that is used for the women come there once a week to wash their clothes. They have a washing machine, and you can stay there. And he showed me, he brought me, and I saw it was just besides he was teaching in his home at that time because the school had burned the preceding summer, but beside his home there was this small. I said, then you can stay. There's a bed. You can stay there. So I stayed there, and that's how I got to Quaqtaq.
Wow.
Now, before we go any further, can you introduce yourself, what you do, and what brought you to the North?
Yes, my name is Louis-Jacques Dorais, but in Quaqtaq, I'm known as Louis. And I will tell you what, because first time people ask me, Kinauvit, who are you? I said, my name is Louis-Jacques. And they said, Louisa, how come you have a girl's name? I said, Louisa. I said, okay, call me Louis would be okay. So for Quaqtaq youth and also many other people, I know I'm Louis. And I studied, I did a master's in anthropology at Université de Montréal on more or less the history of how Quaqtaq came along to become a settled community after having been several camps, several spring or summer camps or winter camps or whatever. And then after my master's, since I had learned language in Quaqtaq, I was interested in doing, after a couple of years of doing a PhD on the Inuit language. And then I went to France, to Paris, to do a PhD there. And then when I finished my PhD, I got a job. At the time, it was really easy to get. It was back then in 1972, easy to get jobs in the university. They were searching for new teachers. Universities were expanding, and I got an offer for a job at the Université Laval in Quebec City, and went there. And I worked there for 40 years till 2011 when I retired after almost 40 years of teaching there. And I taught anthropology, and also I taught Inuktitut. Because one of the reasons they had hired me was that they had quite a few students who were doing research in the North. There was, probably I'll talk of it later on, we had a research team there, and then they wanted to learn Inuktitut, so I taught Inuktitut, and I always, up to 2011, continued to teach, have Inuktitut, introductory spoken Inuktitut as one of the classes I taught almost every year. So that's it.
It's quite interesting that you learned Inuktitut, because it's not an easy language to learn when you're not an Inuk. How did you learn the language?
Yeah, first it's not an easy language. I always say to my students, it's true, Inuktitut is the easiest Aboriginal language to learn, because after I was in touch with Iroquoian, like Beatrice, your father's family. Iroquoian language are really difficult. I work with Wendat people who are acquainted with the Iroquoian, same language group in Wendake near Quebec City, and the language is terrible. And also the Algonquian language, the Innu and Cree languages, is terrible as languages. I never could have learned that. But Inuktitut is so simple. You put a root or a base, and if you want, some affixes or not, you don't need that, and an ending. and that's it.
Yeah.
So you have to learn a few bases, like say, affixes and ending, put them together, and you make words. But of course it's maybe not so easy after all. But what I did, my first summer in Quaqtaq, I didn't speak a word. I listened to people, I learned a few words, but I had got, before I left, I got a small dictionary, which was very bad, were written by Father Tibet, who had been a missionary in Kivad Lake in Western Hudson Bay, so it was not the same dialect. And he has spelling was very bad, but gave me some ideas.
So basically a really
yes,
not the best learning tool for a beginner.
And so I didn't know it, but then after, at the end of the summer, I went back to Montreal to continue my studies. And then I knew when I had been in Quaqtaq at the end of the summer, I think there were 3 people from Quaqtaq who had been sent to the hospital. It was for they had TB, tuberculosis, and that was at that time in Roberval, which was north of Quebec City, near Lake Saint-Jean, and I started to write to them. And in Father Tibert's bad dictionary, at least there was a table with the syllabic symbols and with the pronunciation. So I started to write in syllabics, looking at words in the dictionary and also had one on my way back to Montreal in Quaqtaq. There was a missionary there, Father Schneider, who was writing his own dictionary, working on that of Inuktitut, and became, in my opinion, the best existing dictionary for any Canadian dialect. And he was working also on a grammar, and he gave me a photocopy of part of the draft of his grammar. So I had this photocopy grammar and bad dictionary of Father Tibet to work with. So I started to write to Inuit. I went that was in September when I was back. I think in October I went to Roberval to visit the Inuit there, took the train from Montreal. There was at that time a train getting there, and train all night on the train, then visit them back to Montreal. And in Roberval, I met other Inuit who were there from other communities. So, and spent the day with them. And then back, I started to write to as many people as possible.
Oh, wow.
And wrote, and there the Post Canada was probably had a better service than they have now, because if I put a letter in the mail on Monday, they receive it probably on Wednesday. They answered me back, and on Friday I got their answers.
Really?
So every week we had an exchange of letters, and
it's amazing.
And I learned, and then it was that's how I learned. And I remember, I think it was started in September. In late December, somebody wrote to me, Louis, that's great. Now we are starting to understand what you mean when you write us. Yeah, I was right. First, I was making words that had no meaning, no sense. People didn't really understand what I meant. But and though I went, and then when I came back, following summer in '66, May '66, I went back to Quaqtaq, and people said, "That's quite funny, Louis. When you left last year, you didn't speak a word of Inuktitut. You spent all your winter with the Chalunal people in Montreal, and you come back and you speak Inuktitut." And yes, but I was able to make sentences.
It's amazing.
And I had just to learn more and more words to put in my sentences. That was all.
So if you look up at the screen, is that the dictionary that you're talking about?
No, that's yes, it is. It seems to me, it is.
Okay,
it's probably
not recommended.
No, it's probably an older version. Although they put Inuktitut is a new word which was not used at that time.
Yeah, it's It's a revised edition.
It's a revised edition.
Maybe we should do a review.
I don't know if you revised the orthography of his orthography. By the way,
it would be
the orthography is
interesting.
revised, it's probably okay.
To be continued, I guess.
So it was still called Eskimo at that time.
Oh yeah, of course.
When did they switch from Eskimo to Inuktitut?
Maybe Louis-Jacques can answer that.
Yeah, it was around the 1970s. It's when I can tell you when I wrote even my PhD thesis was in France. It was defended in 1972. I think it was. It was on the words that are used for denoting object or concepts imported by the Khaldunat in the north, a new object, and it was, I think it was called the dictionary. The study of the Eskimo new words. But then when I came back to teach at Laval, the people said yes, but now the Inuit are calling by their own name. They are insisting that we call them Inuit and not Eskimo. And that's how now I change. And I think when I published my part of my PhD dissertation, the publication, it was about the Inuit language and not anymore about the Eskimo language. So I would say it was between 70 72 when the Inuit started to. You had this new Inuit political movement, like with the James Bay negotiation and agreement in Quebec, and the same in Northwest Territories. They were starting discussing for Nunavut and everywhere else. So they said, yes, we are Inuit, not Eskimo anymore.
Right.
They were getting a voice.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you stayed with a family when you first went to Quaqtaq. Can you tell us who that was?
Yeah, as I said, I spent about maybe 2 or 3 weeks in that cabin that belonged to the federal government. But then I wanted to go to a spring camp. There were camps at that time. There were still, but there was one at Irniq, which is
because you arrived when sedentary lifestyle was just beginning, and Inuit were still very much following the
yes
seasons.
and no. It was, but yes, people had started to have, permanent how they build their, hard material cabins in Quaqtaq
and this
in the
was
village.
imposed.
But then, since in spring, I would say probably between mid-May and mid-July or whatever, then many families used to go to spring camps, to camp for a couple of months, 2 months and a half. But in 1965, it was the first time when there were so few families. I had been told in 1964, the years before, there were probably some 10 or 12 families who had left Quaqtaq to live in the camps. But now there were only 3, 4. 3 were at Irniq and 1 was at Saali, much to the south of Quaqtaq, towards Kanyasu. And then I wanted to go to Irniq, which was the nearest one. And I spoke to the Inuit people, and I visited and I explained. And at that time, of course, the only person who spoke the only adult who spoke any English in Quaqtaq was David Ukpik, who was the janitor for the federal school.
Okay.
And I think David had been. To me, he had been in Ganawaki for 3 years in a hospital there, a few years
with
before.
tuberculosis.
For tuberculosis, and that's where he had learned English in Ganawaki. And then he came, he was my interpreter, and said, I want to go to stay with the family. And he spoke to a few people. And then they said, okay, you can, somebody will bring you there. But then the teacher told me, oh, yes, but you cannot stay with the Inuit family in the tent. He said, the federal government, we have a tent at Irniq, and you can stay in our tent free of charge. But I said, okay, I'll stay there, but I take my meals with a family, which was the family of Itwa Puttayok, Itwa Sikuliak Puttayok, and I spent and I gave them, I think it was $150 a day for taking my meals there.
How much?
$150.
Okay.
And if you have
$1.50?
Yeah, $1.50. That's
that was big money back then.
Yes.
They must have been so happy to have you.
Yes, no, sure. At that time, there was no money in the village. So
Yeah.
and then I was there and stayed, and then how I didn't sleep with them, but spend my day with them and with their kids. And there was the another tent with Elijah Tukkiapik, Elijah and Susie Tukkiapik, which has smaller kids. And there was also Matusi Kululak was also a tent in Irniq, but he didn't have a small, he had older daughters. But then we spent with it, but still I was not there. But after 1 month in Irniq, we said, okay, I'll go back to the village, to Quaqtaq. I said, then I want to stay with the family. And I think he spoke and he suggested me. He said first, you should stay with Saali Tukkiapik. Saali and Mary Tukkiapik was actually his brother-in-law. Saali was the brother of Sikuliak Putayo. And I said, okay. And Saali said, okay, you can stay with us. And then the rest of the summer I stayed with them. And then it became my adoptive family.
Right.
It's the next in '66 when I came back. It said, "Okay, I stay." I just no question. I stayed with them for the summer in the village, and then after that I came back. These 2 summers, '65, '66, with only 2 period of quite longer period I spent in the north in Quaqtaq. But then I came back for shorter stays. Several times after that in Quaqtaq, and I always stayed with my family. And they were after that they called them, especially Mary called me Irniq, my son, and Saali was. It's interesting. He was a little more steady, but after.
He was a very reserved man. Yeah.
But after, I think maybe the 3rd time I was in Quaqtaq, he called me Irniq too.
Really?
And so I thought it was like he adopted me. And
I have goosebumps.
Yes. No, it's really interesting. And first I called them, of course, Ata, Anana, Ata, and then I thought it was mainly they called me for fun. But many, many years later, I think it was Siaya Kululak who told me, she said, you know, how, when Miaya or Saali talk to you, how do they call you? I said, they call me Irniq. He said, because when they speak about you, even when you're not there, they speak about Irniqtitut, you are our son. So I said it was just not fun, it was kind of adoption.
Yeah.
And if I may continue, I had a special link with my sister, my little sister Daisy, because Daisy was born on January 2, 1966. And her mom, Miaye, was, I think she was 44 at that time.
Wow.
They had sent her to, they said maybe she could have problem with the birth, so they had sent her to Robertval to have a child.
So that's where Daisy was born.
She was born there, and then when she was born, Miaye just wrote me a letter. There was of course, no email, and they didn't have access to phone, and wrote me a letter, and a few days later said, Louis, Naya Kote, you have a little sister, and her name is Daisy. And I said, what I have to do? She was my mom. I'll go, and as soon as I could, I took a train. I got to Robertval and to see Daisy, and then I think I was the only person from Quaqtaq, in Quaqtaq, to see this girl. So I became her brother, and she became my sister.
Yeah.
And then that was in winter '66, and in summer '66 when I went to Quaqtaq and I stayed with there. Then, of course, she was, I called her Nayapik, and later on she spoke. I remember once when she was later staying in Quaqtaq, when she was 3 or 4 years old. I think I was pretending to sleep and in their home, and Daisy was there with another little girl, and the other little girl said to Daisy, Kinauna, when she says, Ani apigagok. They say it's my.
Apparently, he's my brother.
Apparently, it's my. They say it's. It is said it is my
Question
older
mark,
brother.
question mark, question
But
mark.
it's interesting. But I learned that's how. Say when the Inuit has many names, and you have a special name relation with people from whom you receive your name, or kinship relation with them. So I think an Inuit kid learns from one person to another when they say, yes, this person, you call him or her Aniapik, or you call him Anana,
or Anana or Panik, even though they are older than you. It just makes sense.
Yes, because you bear your name is the of her mother, so call it Panik. So I think they learned. So Daisy was learning that she should call me brother Aniapik and call her Nayapik, and then we continued up to these last. Unfortunately, she went out in last August, but we always called it. But I remember it's funny because in the last years or two, I met her. She called me Aniapialuk. So, and I thought, why? I was not just Aniapik, but it was, I think, because she had another. She had three brothers. They were the Anit, and she. Don't know how she called each other, but when the two eldest died, Matthew and Willie died, there was another, the last one, Sammy, the youngest one, Saali Tukkiapik, was still alive, and she called him Aniapik too. Mm-hmm. And then she had two Aniapik, so he was her Aniapik, young brother, little brother, and I was Aniapialuk, bigger young brother, bigger small brother.
Yeah, so it just clicked to me, Daisy. Daisy Natu.
Yes. She was my nanny.
What a precious person
when I was born,
she was.
and she died of cancer.
Yeah, she died of cancer.
September
and she fought.
2024.
She
fought so hard.
She
fought so hard, and she was so positive.
And she adored people. She
was so loving.
What a special sister you had.
Oh yes, it's so. And if I can tell, Daisy had told me in quite a few years that she would like to see Robertval. She was born there, but I'd never gone there in her life. And said, I'd like to see Robertval. I'll say that's interesting because for Inuit, even traditionally, old-time Inuit, they wanted to get and to die in the old time, if possible, in the place where they were born. It was very, very, very strong Inuit culture. And she said, I want to see Robertval. And I said, yes, Daisy, and she was still, she had already cancer at that time. I said, Daisy, if we can, I could bring you there. Cancer. It's I have a car and it's not a problem. I'm retired now. I can travel. And then it was last summer. I think a couple months before she died, in early June, I think she phoned me and she said, I had said that she came for treatments in Montreal and said, Daisy, if you ever come from treatments and you have 2 days free. Without we can get you in Montreal, get to Robertval, spend a night there, and back to Montreal the next day. And then she phoned me, and she said, I think it was Thursday. On Thursday, she said, Louis, I could have one. I'm just arriving in Montreal Saturday and Sunday during the weekend. I don't have any treatment, so we could get. Say okay, tomorrow. On Friday, I'll get to Montreal from Quebec City, where I live, and then Saturday morning at 9, take you at the Udlivik, bring you to Robertval. We spend a night there and back to Montreal, leave you to Udlivik and go back to Quebec on Monday. And she went with one of her niece, Lizzie, her younger sister's daughter, was with her as her escort. So I was so glad that because after that went back to Quaqtaq, and I think they didn't bring her anymore to
Yes,
to
that's
Montreal
true.
because it was no use.
Yeah.
And I was so glad to have been
To
have-
honor her wish.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Oh yes,
Don't
no,
tell, man. She was so sweet.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for doing that for her.
No, it
she
was
meant
just
so
it was a
much.
pleasure, and it's just I had to do it.
Yeah. Let's talk about kinship.
Yeah.
Inuit kinship is very intricate and very detailed. In English, you would just say mother-in-law, father-in-law, cousin. But in Inuit, those words change
Yeah.
depending on which sex you are. So let's get into
And
that.
older or younger.
Yes.
Or if you were born before this one or after this one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Wait,
It's-
this is gonna be a refresher for me because
yeah,
I
no,
don't
okay.
remember
It's
all
yeah.
of them.
I think it's yes, like Tanya said, it's with brothers and sisters. If you are a man, your brothers, and if you're a woman, your sisters. Don't call them brother or sister. You can say the angayok if they are older. That's old angayok means older, or nukak young one if they are younger than you. But for a brother of the other gender or sister of the other one of the other gender than yours. So if you are a man, your sister, you call her Naya, and a woman, her brother, she will call them Annie. But in Nunavik, she will not make a difference between age. In some other dialects in Nunavut, they have also different words for older sister and younger sister for a man, a younger brother. But in
Well,
Nunavik,
in Nunavik,
still,
we would say nukapik,
And
nukak. Like for example, I would be my older sister's nukak, and then my younger sister would be nukapik.
yeah,
But I can also say nukapik even if it's just my younger sister alone,
yeah.
like no one younger
yeah,
than
yes.
her, as a term of endearment also.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah.
it's a term of it can be a term of endearment and also in age, like
Yeah,
younger
that's right.
or older.
Yes, you're right.
and
It's,
endearment because you are younger.
Yeah.
Or but it's
Yeah.
the same thing. Like you wouldn't say Anat. Yeah, you would, I guess.
yes, it's
Yeah.
But I feel it's much difference is the name you give to aunts and uncles.
Yes.
and the name aunts and uncles give to their nephews and nieces. That's really
Those are complex.
Are complex,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
very. Like
always
I
have
have a
to-
hard time
Yeah.
remembering. So my uncle, if it's my uncle through my mom, is my angak. But if it's paternal, it's akka.
yeah.
That's easy to follow for now so far.
Yeah.
So
On your mom's side.
now, my mom's sister is my ayak. My dad's, if my dad had a sister, it would be atsak.
Yeah.
We're good so far.
Yeah.
Now, for my cousins. So, if my cousin is my female aunt's daughter, so my ayak's daughter, she's my khatak. Same thing with the male, right?
Yeah, I think it's the same.
Same,
Yes.
same thing,
Yeah.
same thing. Okay, so that's simple enough. But if it's a man, my male cousin is my anitsa.
Yeah, that's right.
And I noticed that people in Saluit like to say anitsakuluapik. Those are just
Endearment.
Yeah,
Words of-
because if you have, let's say, more than one anitsak,
Then you do, like,
then
who's
you
your
can
favorite?
put apik or things like that to make a difference.
Your
between-
ranking.
Yeah,
your ranking system.
yeah.
Rapid shalom. But also with grandparents,
Yeah, same thing.
depending on the sex of who your mother or father, which one is your grandmother.
Yeah, maternal and paternal.
Yeah.
So maternal grandmother is anannounced.
Yeah,
Paternal grandmother is anak.
yeah,
But the grandfather remains the same.
yeah. That's right.
So whether
Yeah,
you're...
great, Beatrice. You're really, really great. No, you.
So far, like...
no, but I know it's.
But then where it gets complicated for me is the nieces and nephews. So my sister's daughters, my nieces in English, they're in Inuktitut, what are they?
What it would be? Yeah, I'm
putting you on the hot seat.
Yeah, no, Uyuru.
Uyuru.
Yeah, Uyuru. Yeah,
See,
of course.
I always forget that.
Yeah. My nephews and nieces and the children of my sister Daisy are my Uyuru.
Okay, yeah. But you're a man, and she's...
But I think it's
so
the
is it the same?
No, yes, I think if you a man or just let me think about it.
It's complicated.
It is complicated.
No, I think it's
And it's beautiful. It's wonderful.
is.
Oh, yes.
It really
Yes.
makes it
Yeah.
more
means,
personal.
yeah, that's it.
and meaningful.
Everybody was important enough to be individual categories.
Yeah, yeah.
I think whether you're a man or a woman, your sister's children are your Uyuit, and your brother's. I think it's no. If you're a woman, it would be or you Nuakuluk.
Nuakuluk. Yes. So my sister's children are my Nuakuluk.
Nuakuluk.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
For a man
yeah.
would be my
Uyuru.
Yeah,
Because
that's right.
my uncle, Yusipikiliuta,
Yeah.
Uncle Joe,
Yeah.
called me Uyuru.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
there you
Yeah,
go.
Okay.
There you go. So that's how I remember
Yeah.
things too, from what my
Yes.
yeah.
So special.
yeah.
So important. Everybody was important.
Yeah, still is.
I mean, like in where they stand in the family, you know?
Yes, yes, in the family tree. So now, Uyuruk, Angapik, Angapik. There, we didn't get to
Angapik,
that
yeah.
one. Angapik is when your brother's children are your Angapik.
When you're a woman.
When yes, when I'm a
And
woman,
when
my
you're-
brother's children.
When you're a man, what is it? Do you know?
Good question.
Kangyak.
If it's Kangyak,
Kangyak.
Yes.
We don't hear that word often.
Not often,
No,
but in the
it's-
smaller, up north, like Saluit. I don't know if you agree with me, but Saluit, people of Saluit, Salumiut, Atsirasitialuit.
Aye.
People of Saluit really use these kinship terms
Yeah.
to heart, and not just in the family, but through our naming systems
Yes.
as well. We do that too, but people of Saluit are known to
Yes.
really use these kinship terms.
Maybe this episode will revitalize that.
Yes, I hope so, because I wanna remember these, know these.
I just made a mental note too for the proper words.
Avatak had Avatak Cultural Institute made a poster.
Oh yes, with the kinship. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so we can request that.
Yeah.
Yeah, people can request from Avatak
That would
Cultural
be
Institute.
So nice.
Because it really shows in the family tree what the kinship terminology. You probably played a big role in creating that.
No, it's but it's
You use the better dictionary.
no.
Yeah. So then we have great grandmother, Anannatselqiuti.
Yeah.
Then great
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 grandmother.
great grandmother
Yeah.
is Anna. What is it?
What
I only
was-
know the reverse.
Yeah.
Like I know the great grandchild.
Yeah, what is it?
Ayaupek.
Hey.
There's okay. Ilngutak.
Yeah.
Start from the
Yeah, it's a grandchild.
Grandchild ilngutak. Then great grandchild is ilngutaliki. Or ilngutaliki.
Yeah.
And then great grandchild is ayaupek.
Hey.
Ayaupek.
Sarayotagaliun.
Luto.
It's first time.
Ayaupek. A cane.
Yeah, again, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I was, what I heard for last time I was in Quaqtaq, I asked, I think it's
Or
UDP,
Bi-
Yani Uwag. I said, now you should have probably now great grandfather's mother. And so what's the name? Oh, he said it's Anannatselqiuti or Atatatselqiuti for great
Okay, yes,
grandparents.
that's true.
Is it
Yeah,
true?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think the next term after ayaupek, if I might be wrong, I think it's ilupiro,
Hey.
which is the same word for the lining of a
Yeah.
mitten.
Yeah.
I might be wrong.
Yeah, maybe it is.
I stand to be corrected.
Yeah.
And what else are we missing in this kinship terminology?
The words are the brothers and sisters-in-law.
Yes.
Because if it's the spouse of your brother or sister, or
Yeah.
your spouse's brother or sister is not the same.
Yes.
And the husband of wife of your brother-in-law or sister-in-law and is not the same, and what they call each other. It's so at sometimes I always have problem to remember all these differences.
So if I were married, my mother-in-law would be my sakik.
Yeah.
Same thing with the
With your sister,
father-in-law.
same
Yes,
word.
so
Yeah,
same
it's
word.
okay.
And I would be their, what's the word?
Ukwa.
Ukwak.
Yeah.
Ukwak. But so if for the man, if I was a man, I would be my sakik's ningaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But then, if you're a woman, your brother's wife would be your ukwak too.
yes.
And if you're a man, your sister's husband would be your ningauk. Same
Yes.
as
The in-laws.
is it that or no or second?
No,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, daughter-in-law, son-in-law. So everybody in the family of my husband would call me Ukwa. Everybody in the family would call me Ukwa. My husband's family would call me Ukwa.
Yeah.
And to add to that, my husband's brother's wife,
Yeah.
depending if she's older than me or younger than me,
Yeah.
would be my angayonguk
Yeah.
for older, nukaonguk
That's right.
for younger.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, is that the same in the male? I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
I
part.
guess so. It's
Yeah.
but because what about Sakyak?
Sakya. Now, Sakya.
Sakyak is, I would say,
Sakya.
my if I am a man, my sister's No, it would be my sister's husband would be my sakiak.
Okay.
And if I am a woman, my brother's wife would be my sakiak. It's because it's... But which one you...
They went a bit far.
No, yeah, no.
Did we lose you?
Okay, I think, yeah.
Yes, we will.
Then
We
people
will get that chart from Quaqtaq.
Yeah, because people will just stop looking at the podcast.
Yeah, they'll close.
I'm never
podcast.
getting
There will be
married.
some...
Makikiate na uvanne ukwa hasu. But by kinship, because when I was a child, she wanted me to marry her son.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
So she automatically turned me into her ukwa
Daughter-in-law.
and forced me to call her Saki.
And it didn't work.
That relationship never turned out, but she still calls me that.
She still has hope. Sorry, Julia.
Yes, sorry, Julia. Oh my goodness. Hopefully she calls Julia that too.
Yeah. All right. Now, I'm trying to think if we're missing anything. In Nunavut, you spent some time in Nunavut as well, doing research, and they have different words for like Quaqtaq.
Yeah, they have... I really don't...
I think they call Iluk.
Yeah,
Iluk.
It's some
Ang
cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ang nahatik.
Like your pair?
Yeah.
Or the
I think
opposite of your
so.
pair?
Yeah, it means a pair of, because it can mean also it look it like an I don't know, an enemy, somebody. I mean, it look are two people in kind of not oppose or not pair. So
Iloa. Or my pair. Pair, yeah.
Yeah, but your cousin is a pair. You know, in a way, if you because maybe you would be probably in your life you would have many opportunities, especially in older time, to go and get to work, do something like if you're women to your women cousin to work with her, and the same time at way if you are a man who go to hunt or whatever with your cousins, it would be like always like a pair.
Which makes sense. I mean, if you're a brother and a sister, you're from the same parents, you're half of each. So you're a pair, then your children are a pair.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good observation.
Thanks.
Hold on.
A lot of words in Inuktitut have meaning like that. And although it's not immediately recognizable, but there's so much thoughtfulness behind every word, or just the way we structure a sentence, or not being able to translate something exactly from Inuktitut to English because English is incapable of doing it the way it's done in Inuktitut, you know? So it's the language is so thoughtful.
Oh yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting, it's these later years I've worked a lot, and I made a book about that. Actually, was on the underlying meaning or the hidden meanings of many Inuit words. Like some of them, it's of course it's easy. If I say "kangatayok," it means something just goes up in the air, and "kangata" to go up, and "yok" something which uses to do that. But then other words are a little more, like say, if I say "piyungitok," yeah, okay, it's bad.
Not beautiful. Or not
good.
Not
or
good.
if you say "piyuyok,"
yeah.
okay, but beautiful, it's good, beautiful, nice, everything. But if you look at it, what means "pi"? It means something. Mm-hmm. "U" is to be, the affix "u," and "yok," third person of the singular, or it is something. Mm. So of course, if it could mean and piyungitok, pi something, u to be, ngi not, tok it. So it is not something.
Like minus it.
Yeah, man. So once many years ago, I taught a course on Inuktitut grammar into the academic school board people. It was in Dorval at that time, and I thought that, but that piyong itok is not something. And then people said, no, you don't have it. Piyu, it means to be good. Piyongi, not to be good. Yeah, I said yes, but if you look at the grammar, the piyongitok, you have all cannot. And that brings us to some, I say, hidden meanings. That for speakers, they would say, yeah, piyongitok is bad, piyong good. But it might mean that, I don't know, when the Inuktitut, the Inuit language was born, we don't know, but it was never born, because it evolved some 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago from what people were speaking before that. But at some time, maybe people had a relationship that to be what is good, it exists. It is something.
Right.
It's good. And if it's piyongitok, if it is not something, it's bad. It cannot. If it cannot exist, it's bad.
That's deeply philosophical.
It's philosophical. And
Very.
actually, I found it's funny when I was working on that book where I discussed this kind of things. I found there's a philosopher from Thomas Aquinas, who was a philosopher from the 12th century or 13th century in the Middle Ages, who wrote a big, complete philosophy of trying to explain the world. And it was a Christian, I think, a Catholic, but that time Christians were the same thing. And on that, and he says, what is, to the good, to be good and to be something is the same thing. And not to be good and not to be something, and what is not good doesn't exist, what is good does exist. I said he wrote exactly what the Inuit are saying.
Yeah.
He was thinking exactly, and they had no contact with that old guy in 1200 something in whatever in France or whatever in Europe were writing this philosopher, and that Inuit guy in maybe at the same period was speaking proto-Inuktitut family, the older version of Inuktitut was thinking the same thing.
You must have felt like you found a gold mine when you connected those together.
But I said for me, why is it? Is it probably that human beings think more or less in the same way? They would, on the surface, it will go in all different directions, but at the bottom, when you think about life, about anything, very fundamental thing, when you're a human being, you probably have more or less the same vision. So you can guess sometime, like in this case, it can show up at the surface, like in Inuktitut with words like piyuyok, piyongitok, and or in the work of a philosopher who thought that, said, yeah, that's probably true, and he wrote that in his.
All right. We're going to talk about the parallels between cultural differences in our next episode, because we have come to the end of this part 1 with Louis-Jacques Dorais. It's been so much fun to talk with you, and stick around for part 2. And everyone at home, thanks for your support. If you wish to support us further, be sure to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/northerned, and join us over on Discord to keep the conversation going. All right. Welcome back to part 2 of Northerned with our friend Louis-Jacques Dorais, anthropologist. Louis, can you start the episode with the longest Inuktitut word that you learned.
Yes, and I would say first that I learned that word from your uncle, Yusipi Kiliotak.
He was a comedian.
Oh, he was a comedian, and he was a great friend to me.
Inuktitut sunagisod.
Angaga kisen ang kujola tuin na sogela yaga. Because my dad.
Yusipikiliota.
Yeah. Late Yusipikiliota.
Yeah. It was a long time ago, probably in 1968 or 69, and I was in Quaqtaq at that time, was living there. And it was just, again, he said, yes, this word, and I just happened to remember it, and it was Sinnatumayu yaraluktu yanirato hattalarunay niralortu galoa. And and I thought he had made out this word himself just to teach. I mean, just to
throw
but
you
no.
off track.
But many years later, when he was in Quaqtaq, I just said this word to him, and in one or two places I didn't remember it exactly as he had told, and he told it back, and he said, and I think it's maybe it was Mary, his wife, who asked him, who said that? So, it was old, and I don't remember who. So it was a really word which had been said by somebody. It was not been made out for learning the language.
Yeah.
What does that word mean?
It's I wrote it somewhere where this is.
Let's break it down.
Done it, yes. In Sinatoma, it's to dream. It didn't seem that people told me that I looked like somebody who was said by people to look like somebody who looked like a big dreamer or something like that. Actually it doesn't. And probably the guy who said it the first time wanted also to make himself say something special,
philosophical.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
It's great that there's a word for that.
Yeah. Of course there is.
A novel behind that word. All right, let's get back into our discussion from part one. You worked with different cultures.
Yeah.
Inuit, Huron, Wendat.
Yeah, you run my dad.
Iroquois.
Yeah.
And Cree, and Vietnamese.
And so the Vietnamese.
Uh-huh.
Yes, because it's at first the Sun News people, yes, you're interested both in the Inuit and the Vietnamese. How comes? And of course, the Vietnamese, it was special because I happened to, when I was student in Paris, to meet Vietnamese young woman, and we got together. And when I came back to Montreal after my studies, she followed me, and we got married in Montreal.
When was this?
That was 1972. And firstly, she left. She died 4 years ago this summer, and so we had been together for 49 years.
What was her name?
Her name was she was Vanzung.
Oh, wow.
Vanzung, it means beautiful cloud.
Oh wow, that's
And
so
at some
pretty.
time she made it's anecdotal, but she late in her life she started to paint and painting, and she wanted to have, in the Asian artists, they have a seal, they have just engraved their name or their initial, and they just put that on their picture. And she had one made, and she said, "I want you to put my name in Inuktitut and in syllabics." It would be beautiful cloud would be Nuvuyatsiak. But Nuvuyatsiak, it was too long so I put Nuvuyak, and we went to in Chinatown in Montreal. Yeah, there was a guy who made these seals, just engraved it on marble or whatever, and we wrote it in syllabic Nuvuyak, and she had her seal. And so I became interested in Vietnamese culture. of course. It was all new to me, and Asian cultures in general. And when the Vietnamese refugees came actually it will be the 50th anniversary next week, in the April 30, when the communist army from North Vietnam invaded at the end of the Vietnam War. They invaded the South. Then many refugees, including my wife's parents, who came to Canada at that time. And so I was interested to study the refugees and how they adapted. But I was interested in Vietnamese culture in general, and I found actually some similarities. Like, for instance, in the language, the fact that you, in Inuktitut, when you ask a negative question, if I ask you, "Kangilatit," aren't you coming? If you are not coming, you say, yes, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
And
we don't even need to say, we don't need to add.
No,
I'm
you
not coming.
say,
You just say,
Kangilatit, I know, okay, you're not coming. Or say, Auka, then you are coming.
Yeah.
But in English, I'll say, aren't you coming? So say, no, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
Or yes, I'm coming.
Yeah.
No, but in Vietnamese, it's the same thing also. They answer.
This kind of Inuktitut has been lost in some of the communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, because if people speak so much English, and it's something you get mixed. Like many Khadunat who learn Inuktitut, they will not use it also like Inuit do, because it's not part of the grammar. It's just how you use the words. Another thing I found in the culture is that, in the Inuit, you don't just punish the children, or if you go and call after a child. And old people said yes, because the child, they bear the name of some ancestor of their people. So if I just even hit my child or whatever, there are other reasons, of course, for that. But also, or call him or her names, it will be an insult to the person from whom his or her name is coming. And the Vietnamese, they have more or less the same idea of you should not insult other people, but in the reverse. When I asked my name, I said, when you give a name to a child, can you give, I knew the Inuit way, do you give the name of somebody else? I said, oh, no, never. When one must find a name for a child, you must find a name that must not be the name of anyone you know. And he said, why? Because I said, if you insulted or hit your child, whatever, you would be insulting the person who bears this name. So it was the same logics of not insulting somebody else through the child, but we do it.
Yeah,
the traditional Vietnamese parents were very strict, and sometimes they hit their children and said it's for their good that they should be. But then you cannot give them the name of somebody because you would be hitting or insulting that person.
But there's a reason.
Yeah. But the logic is the same, is that and the Inuit, you don't insult a child or hit a child because you don't want to insult the person.
Whereas in Vietnamese, you want to prevent doing that at all, so you don't even name them.
Yeah, that's right. You don't end up for people, but then you can hit them.
Yeah.
As much as you
no
can.
problem. No guilt, no shame.
But I was not. No, but I know the Vietnamese are not child beaters, or were not so violent. But maybe they were more, and now those are here.
It was more, like extra precaution.
They're probably more severe than other parents than we are used to.
So, what different communities have taught you about identity and belonging?
It's a good question. I think in a way of concerning identity and belonging, the common common thing I saw between studying, for example, the Inuit or other Aboriginal people and the Vietnamese immigrants was that they were minorities within Canada or whatever the country where they were living. The Inuit are a minority within Canada, not only a minority in numbers, but also it's the laws or whatever government don't have their own completely. Even if we have Nunavik or Nunavut, but it's are still have to obey by the laws, the general laws of Canada as everybody else, and the institution are the same. So they are a minority, and they have to. And the language, Inuktitut, is a minority language, and you have to get along with that and to assert your identity. It's always you have to struggle for that. And for the immigrant, whether it be the Vietnamese or other immigrants, if they want to keep up to a certain way their identity, they have to adapt. But at the same time, the Vietnamese it's important with them. You must adapt. They said, yes, it's true. When you are living in Montreal or whatever, you should completely adapt to the situation, to the community, to the where you live, and you should learn the language and study to have a good job and participate in the political parties or whatever you do in the society. But you should not assimilate completely. They said there are some Vietnamese values that are very important. And these are kids. They should, even if they forget their language, we will not ask them to speak Vietnamese at home, and they learn French or English or whatever. But they should preserve their Vietnamese values, which are what is the respect your family and respect older people, and you should be kind to other people. And what I say that's exactly the Inuit values in a way. It's and they said, when they say yes, the Vietnamese would say yes. The problem the Western or people from North Americans or European people have is that they don't they lost the sense of the family. Everyone is on it. Every individual is separate, and when kids are 18 years old, the parents just go away by yourself. And said we in Vietnam, we always our children always stays our children, even if they are completely by themselves. They work, they do they have their own family, but. And I thought for the Inuit, it's more or less the same thing. It's the families always to respect your elders and normal. Eventually, your parents are always or should be always your parents. So it's the same values, but these values within the larger society, something they are jeopardized by the I would say the modern. Khalunat or whatever way of living, which is the
that's what I have a hard time with living down here is the individualism. I do have some family that live down here, like my aunt. I have cousins. I see them from time to time, but I have a almost 4-year-old, and it's hard to find someone to take care of her. Also, I'm very grateful that I have an older daughter who comes often to take care of her, but it's difficult not having your community close to you when you have, I mean, not just when you have children, but as a person. I long for that. And when I do long for that, I make sure that I connect with other Inuit.
Yeah, that's right.
I go visit them. I go eat with them. I invite them over. We have sewing afternoons, beading, whatever it is,
Yeah.
just to be with other Inuit.
It's like even the concept of nobody locking their doors. I mean, people in the South are the same too. They don't lock their doors. But the concept of not even knocking when you're in the North and just walking in is so normal. It's
Yeah.
so normal.
Yeah, it's this openness.
Yeah,
Yes.
community. Your
Community.
your togetherness. I remember when I moved to Montreal. I mean, at the forefront of my values has always been we respect our elders.
Yeah.
And I was raised by an elder. When I was born, she was already an elder. So it's always been what leads my day-to-day life, you know. And I remember when I moved down south and I used to take the city bus, and I can remember seeing young people sitting when there was elders standing, and it puzzled me.
Yeah.
I could not believe that. I could not believe how normal that was to treat an elder like that,
Yeah.
you know? So that is something that's very different about us, and that it just comes so natural for us. There's even protocol in the North, elders first. I mean, it's almost the law, you know?
It is.
We have elders buses. We have elders coupons. We have elders
Helpers.
trips.
Yeah.
And when
Elders conference.
when ice is collected from the river, fresh ice is collected from the river, it goes to the elders first. Like my grandmother,
Yeah.
we always had those benefits because my grandma would get all the good stuff.
Yeah, if like hunters come back with caribou meat or fish, they're all delivered to elders first.
Elders first.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with the times and social issues that we're facing in Nunavik, that high regard for our elders is disrupted, and that's really sad.
Yeah.
And substance
Yeah,
is a big one.
definitely. That really gets in the way of living a harmonious life. And our elders are precious. And I'm so grateful for your work, Louis-Jacques, because our culture was an oral culture. We didn't have pen and paper. Inuit were not writing down history. They kept the memory going with sharing stories, and up to now. And it's people like you who help preserve our culture, because academics were not they're not part of our culture in a classroom setting. Although we very much believe and respect traditional knowledge, which is far beyond credentials from an institution.
Of course.
The environment that Inuit are in, and the knowledge that they possess to live in that environment, the way they know how animals travel, from looking at the sky, they know what's coming. They hunt by the seasons, so they're experts. They're doctors.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, they possess doctorate level knowledge when it comes to being out on the land and being hunters. And yet, like, it's only now that that's being recognized by non-Inuit. So, yeah, so I'm grateful that people like you, because there's many anthropologists that have come to our lands to document the traditional knowledge, which helps us younger people retain that knowledge and learn that knowledge. Because a lot of the practices are not being done on a daily basis anymore. We're continuing some parts of our practices. For example, our Laurel here is very close to having her child. So there's protocols in our culture when it comes to childbearing, and we're still practicing those. But some things are not practiced anymore. For example, if you're pregnant, you would be told to use water as much as you can.
Do the dishes.
Do the dishes, clean the floors, clean the walls, like all this stuff.
Wow.
But in like 2024, like medically, we're told to rest, to sleep as much as you can, which is the complete opposite of Inuit pregnancy protocols.
You'll have to tell me. Before I've got 2 weeks left, so you have to tell me everything.
I think you're doing amazingly, though. Like you're super active, which is in Inuit. If you're pregnant, you're told to not be. I don't want to sound mean, but lazy. They always said you're not supposed to just be lazy when you're pregnant. You always have to walk around, move as much as you can, so your labor doesn't last very long. So those kinds of things. If you're pregnant, don't stand under the doorway because you might have a very long labor if you do that.
Okay.
And don't play with yarn.
Okay. Good to know.
Because the umbilical cord might wrap around your child's neck during delivery, and that's dangerous. Things like that. So like what's the connection between language and cultural identity, Louis-Jacques?
I think it's, of course, when you speak a language, you have to think in another way than when you speak another language. If you speak Inuktitut, you probably even realize it yourself. It's not conscious, but your brain is working in another way than when you are speaking English or any other language. That's important. But of course, it doesn't mean that if you lose your language, you will lose your identity. And
thank you for saying that. Repeat that, please.
No, it's sure. If you don't lose your identity, I have example. I went once to 40 years ago to the Mackenzie Delta, to the Inuit people. And they were, at that time, launching a project to teach their language to, there were 3 different dialects in the Mackenzie area, to their kids. And because language had stopped being transmitted to kids, there were still, fortunately, there were still people mostly over 50 years old who spoke the language, who knew the language, but all of them were bilingual. Even, I think I met one old woman who was unilingual in Nuvia-Luktun, but all the other, even older people, were bilingual, which was not the case at that time, 40 years ago in Nunavik. But these people who spoke only English, most of them, I never, in no other place have I heard so many stories of spirits and shaman. I know these people. It said, there was that guy who was, I think he was hurt, and there was a polar bear who just round around him just to protect him from wolves who would come. And that kind of, I never heard, maybe I could have heard that kind of story in Nunavik or whatever, but I had never. But I say, these people are supposed to be very, their first language is English, don't speak, but still,
they have the
they have their
experiences.
culture and this, and the very aspects of, and at that time in Nunavik, people wouldn't have spoken to you about spirits or whatever. That's, but there they were. So and what linguists and anthropologists say now is that, of course, even if you don't speak your ancestral language, you don't lose your identity. But if you speak it, your identity is
Translated
because
stronger.
it's stronger and it's different. But it's different from what it is if you don't speak it, and it's probably is nearer to the identity of your ancestor than it is if you don't. And yeah, just once more, you mentioned Beatrice that I worked with the Wendat people, Huron Wendat people in Malacca, and these guys they stopped transmitting their language to children back around 1860 or 1870, over 150 years ago. So nowadays, even the oldest people in Wendake never heard anybody, I never heard anybody speaking their language. They wanted to. Back starting maybe 40 years ago, some of them started, yes, we must reclaim our language. And unfortunately, there were these old missionaries of 300 years ago had made grammars and dictionaries, handwritten, one of their language. They still exist in archives. And, and they went, but why did they want that? They want to do it. They said, because we want to think like our ancestors. It's now their first language is French. Now we speak French, but we know we are not Khadluna, we are not white people. We are Huron, and it is very strong with that. We are First Nation, Huron First Nation. Nothing yet. We are not. You told me we are not Canadian. We are not Quebecois or whatever. We are Huron. That's a separate nationality. Say the Mohawks say the same thing, and I really agree with that. That you're perfectly right. But if we have our language, we will be nearer to our ancestor and to of course, their old culture is gone since 200 years, that will not come back. But still, if we are able to understand, but through the language, how our great-great-great-great-grandfathers and mothers were thinking, it will be easiest for us to understand our identity, who we are, and how different we are from non-Wendat or non-native people.
Like imagine having an experience out in the land that you could never translate in French or English.
That's right.
But learning your language and saying, that's what that is. That's what that means. That's who I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the same for Inuktitut. It doesn't mean that, okay, no problem, just stop speaking Inuktitut and no, you will remain Inuit, yes, but no, you should by always encourage people to teach their language to their kids, even if it's not, especially in mixed couples. Of course, I knew it with my wife who was Vietnamese, and when we got married, I said, gee, I'll learn your language and we'll speak it to the kids. Of course, I never learned Vietnamese. I learned some words. And I remember I was saying all these white guys who are with Inuit women that don't even speak Inuktitut. I said, why, that's what guy with this Vietnamese guy don't speak Vietnamese.
You're that guy.
But I'm a bad guy. No. But still, for different reasons, maybe Inuktitut was enough. It just filled my head and could I one more. But then it's difficult to transmit language in the situation. But still, you have to your kids, even in mixed parentage, to have them to like their culture and to be aware of
That's what's important in my household, because I'm with a Quebecois and we have a child who's almost 4 and I only speak to her in Inuktitut.
That's great.
Only in Inuktitut. And he, of course, my partner speaks to her in French.
Yeah.
And we're in Montreal. So naturally, she responds in French.
Yes.
She understands everything I say. She even translates to her dad what I say into French. And her daycare is bilingual. so she also understands English.
Yeah.
And for everybody around us, for all the Inuit around us, for some reason, they want to speak to her in English or French.
Yes.
They're Inuit, and they're trying to talk to her in English or French.
Yeah.
And I have to say, please speak to her only in Inuktitut.
Yeah.
She understands everything. I think because she responds in French, they assume that she doesn't
Yeah,
understand
probably.
everything.
Yeah.
So I have to keep reminding everybody, please speak to her in Inuktitut.
Yeah. Actually, I found that pattern among the Vietnamese. Speaking, that's where even a couple where the two parents were Vietnamese, spoke Vietnamese to their kids, but the kids they learned French or English, whatever that environment was, but they understood everything in Vietnamese, but not never spoke it. And among the Inuit in Labrador, I have a colleague, Alana Jones in Toronto, who worked for a long time with the Nunatsiavut people. And he said, in Nunatsiavut now, it's about, under 20% of the people who have Inuktitut as their first language. But she found many people, I would say people over 30 years old, they understand Inuktitut, but they would never speak it. And so she is a real linguist. I'm just an anthropologist, but she said, that there's a pattern that when they call it passive bilingualism, but there's a passive, they have a more politically correct term than passive, but anyway, that you understand the language and you don't speak it. So it's easier for them. And with people in Nunatsiavut, they devised program to teach Nunatsiavut, Labrador, Inuktitut to these people who understand already the language without speaking it. And it's with different methods for teaching than to teach the language to people who don't understand it at all, who start from nothing. So it's interesting to say that.
I know my grandmother's situation. I mean, they were so colonized at the time of when she was raising her small family. And she was told, she had her first child when she was 19 years old. And she was told, you only speak English. You only speak English. You don't speak Inuktitut to them. So all my grandmother's 14 children, she spoke English to them, and her husband was English. So all her children, they never learned Inuktitut. And then, of course, one of those children is my mother. And then to me as well, my grandmother, I could speak to her in Inuktitut. I could ask her, and she would reply to me in English because it was so hardwired into her, But this example you said about being closer to or being more able with your identity because you can speak your language. Now, I was set out to not be able to speak my language, but I was very determined. And when my grandmother was passing and she was at the elder's home, this very beautiful thing happened. It was just days before she was passing, and we knew she was in the transition. And Luisa Kulula,
My auntie.
yeah, she's at the elder's home currently, and she was there during this time, and she would come into my grandmother's room when I was there, and Luisa can only speak Inuktitut. So we were speaking in Inuktitut to each other, and these white nurses, they would come in and out, or my grandmother's children would come in and out, and they could only speak English. So Luisa would speak only to me because I was the only one that could understand her. And there were certain times where we were alone. It would be me, Luisa, and my grandmother, who was in the bed and coming in and out of consciousness. And I don't ever remember a time that my grandmother chose to speak Inuktitut to me. She always spoke to me in English, even though she knew I could, and she was quite proud that I could, but it was so instilled in her, you know. And this really beautiful thing happened when we were alone in the room, and Luisa and I were speaking for at least an hour. You know, we had really nice flow, and then my grandmother started to speak in Inuktitut, but she was half conscious, you know, and I remember thinking, she's comfortable, you know, or she is free. She is free to speak her language, you know, like everyday life was but in that moment when she could hear us in the background, she started to speak. Even she wasn't in our conversation, she just, and I remember thinking, she's free, she is who she was meant to be, you know. And I thought at that time, thank God I can speak my language. So that's a really although I've always felt it was my identity, that was where I realized all the effort I made to learn my language back, where it was so could have been so easy that I didn't. It was for moments like that. So yeah.
And you both learned Inuktitut in Quaqtaq.
In Quaqtaq.
Quaqtaq.
In Quaqtaq.
That's
I
right,
did too, yeah.
You did too, yeah.
I did too,
That's
yeah.
the place to learn Inuktitut. Quaqtaq.
Because you know what happened was I was a young teen, and I was just going there to babysit. My Inuktitut was quite poor. I grew up back and forth the south and Quaqtaq south, and because I spent a lot of time in youth protection. And then it was like this little phenomenon where I was now able to do something on my own. I was old enough, so I went to Quaqtaq to babysit. And nobody was going to accommodate me in English.
Yeah.
Not in Quaqtaq.
Not in Quaqtaq.
No,
That's
I
right.
had no choice.
Yeah.
So no matter what I said in English, they would reply in Inuktitut, and really encouraged me too. And so I remember thinking, okay, this is where you're going to learn the most. Let's do this. So I really credit Quaqtaq to elevating my Inuktitut.
So maybe in Quaqtaq you could open a school for, you know, if everybody, all Inuit want to learn
and you can name
their
it the
language.
longest word in Inuktitut.
Yes.
We'll use that title.
You spend a
Sinatuma.
summer in Quaqtaq and you'll learn your language.
Yes. That's a brilliant idea. The problem is when.
Yes.
What gives you hope about the future of indigenous languages?
I think it's what I find interesting is now that how would call it indigenous voices are heard. You know, it's not only Inuit but all indigenous. What you have someone like you or all these performers in Inuktitut and different indigenous language who are known not only among their own communities but from the general public. All these like these podcasts or whatever you do. Same in literature. There are now a lot of Inuit writers who publish things, and also I know some Innu or Cree or whatever other writers who publish either in their language or, for me, it's not or in English or in French. Because of course, if you publish a book in Inuktitut, maybe it will be read by 1,000 people. If you publish it in English or French, if it's a good book, it will be read by 10,000, 20,000 people. So it's good, but still your voice as an Inuk person will be, or as an Innu or Cree or whatever Mohawk person will be heard by everybody. And in this situation, I think even younger people who don't speak their ancestral language will find that if they get back to their ancestral, will find that their ancestral language is important, because even if they write or sing or whatever in another language, if they do it at least partly, if they get some knowledge of their ancestral language, it will be better for them. More, they will assess their identity more than just all the time doing it in a foreign language, English or French. And in this way, I think the indigenous languages will survive, even in places where they are, on the verge. Among the Inuit is different, but but even in the north, it can be. We cannot say maybe.
It's apparent where it's stronger and weaker.
Yeah, it does. But I think it will always remain there, and because now it is respected. Like you told about your grandmother, she said yes, she was so instilled in her head that she should speak English. That's not the case anymore.
No.
So it's now the indigenous language and Inuktitut are respected. And so even the youngest people, they know this and they notice this and they find it important and they are taught their language in schools. I think I know but like in Labrador now, not sure what they have some classes of Inuktitut as a second language, or in the Inuvialuktun area in the west. Inuvialuktun area, I found some statistics from the 2021 Canadian census. The number of, or the percentage of local people who had Inuvialuktun or whatever as their first language was smaller than the number of people who said they were able to hold a conversation in Inuvialuktun. Maybe it's 1 or 2% smaller, but which means that now a little more people are able to speak the language than the number of people who have it as their first language, which means that people who learn it. And it's most probably, it's not Kaduna or Tanyit, as they call it there, but it was local people who learn it at school or wherever and are able to, maybe are not completely fluent, but they can have a conversation in their language. So I'm very positive. It will not mean that we won't see a day when everybody will become, use in places like Quaqtaq or whatever, or Labrador or whatever, they will use only their language on a daily basis, as it is done still in Quaqtaq. But still, language will not disappear. It will stay there and be respected and continue to play a role in assessing the identity of the people.
Mm-hmm. That's hopeful.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And it takes a lot of effort to...
Oh, yeah, you have to.
Mm-hmm. It's a daily work.
Yes.
It's daily work. Like in my household anyway, like I have to be conscious.
Yes.
Like reading bedtime stories, for example. My daughter will literally say, I want you to read this in French. And I'll just say, no, we're going to do it in Inuktitut.
Yeah, that's good.
And she doesn't fuss.
Yes.
She doesn't fuss. She just says, okay.
Yeah.
So and from household to school boards.
Yes.
Like it's a communal effort.
Yeah, that's right. And what I mean in linguistic terms, it means that the bilingualism was up to recently was subtractive bilingualism. It means that as when you learn English at school or French, but mostly English, then you lost your language. You lost your Inuktitut. It's subtractive. It subtracted your language, and then you finish knowing much more words and much more things in English. It was easier in English. Now we should have. They say we are probably turning to additive bilingualism. Is that when you learn English or whatever foreign language, you don't lose. You don't lose.
Yeah.
You don't lose your native language.
Right.
And or you relearn your native language even when you speak English as your first or almost first language, but which means that now bilingualism should be seen in a positive way.
Right.
It's not say yes, we're about no. Okay, we must be. We must take care about the language, but if we do, the language will remain there.
Yeah, I hope François Legault heard that.
Yeah, you should. I'm not sure if he... No, I won't say a bad thing. But
You can say it in Inuktitut.
Sila luwag hiramele.
Yung ito alam.
He is nothing.
So funny.
Do you have, I'm sure you have many, but can you talk about a memorable moment you had in the North?
My moment, it's, I don't know. One of my best moments was in Quaqtaq. It's when that was in 66. I had gone to, when I was in Montreal these years, I was visiting the Inuit in the hospitals in Montreal most of the time. At some time, there were people from Quaqtaq or from whatever, and especially young people. And there was this, then a girl, Susie Takulik, and she's from Kangasuk now. And
my aunt.
Your aunt, that's right. And okay. And
yeah, it's because she's my mom's stepmother's sister.
Oh yeah, okay. So that way, okay. She's your aunt. So and what Suzanne, she was in the hospital there, and other young people, and we went and brought some of them at my parents' home, and from 5 or 6, and we had supper, and then all these people were going back. It was in December, going back up north. The administrator sent them up north to their villages for Christmas, and actually I was also going to spend Christmas in Quaqtaq, and but then we're in Quaqtaq and all waiting for planes to community, and I stayed with them and just going, what were we doing? All speaking in Inuktitut, we'll do that. And then once I said, my good mom and Susie, she said to the other ones, and she said, Louis, when I think about him, I don't think about him as a Khadunak, but just as a Pichati, as a friend. And I said, because at that time you had all, generally a quite strict division between Inuit and Khadunat, and you have, if you are a Khadunak, you are in a category, and Inuit's another social category. And then she said, no, I'm just a friend, and neither a Khadunak or whatever, and things like that. And another one also in the same vein, it's the same thing. Many years later, I was in Quaqtaq with my, and I think my mother, Mary, had died, and I was with Father Saali, and at home, and there was, I think it was May, probably, Daisy's girl who was 3 or 4 years, and she came, and I was there, and she asked me in Inuktitut, she said, Ana Inuva, is your Inutwina, is your mom an Inuk? I said, no, Auka. Atata Inuva, Auka. And she was puzzled, and her grandfather, Saali, was there, and she came to her and says, Louis Sunova, what is Louis? And he answered, he said, Inuktitut ulirtuna, Inuktitut uyok. He is Inuktitut, a companion, friend, which means it's, I was neither a real Khaduna Twinnak or Khaduna I looked like a real big Khadunak. And of course, I was not a Ninu Twinnak also, but I was a Ninu Khati, somebody who just was with the Inuit and like a companion or mate of the Inuit.
Who lives with us.
Who live with us. So I found it very, very great. It's,
or almost like human like us.
Yeah.
He's
human like us.
that's what the what the basic meaning. He is a human like us. Well, the Khalunat are not really.
But the Khalunat are not, I mean, they are literally human too, but not in the special way.
It's a specific,
Yeah.
the name for the First Nations, Adelaide. In Adelaide, actually, Adelaide means another one. So for the Inuit were the others.
Okay.
They were human beings, but another.
Another
space. Allah.
Okay, that's the root.
Yeah.
Allah.
Adelaide. The other ones. So it's like the alien or whatever, it's they are human beings, of course, the First Nation, but it's another kind of human being. They are not like us, the Inuktitut, the real Inuit, the real human beings.
And Hadunak, that would be anyone else who's not Inuit, or is it?
It's specifically white, but
Hadlunat,
but
it's
like it could be European. It could be as long
Foreigner.
as there's I think their skin is white.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Or the word
Because
came,
there's a different word for black people.
Okay.
It literally translates to black person. Black. Hirnita.
But we've grown up with, at the time, children say their parents were Khaluna and their children were either born in the north or came when they were very small, and they almost get that same, like Inuktitut. Like I can remember there's a one person in particular that we grew up with, kindergarten, not so much me, but my other cousins. And I remember saying to him, and he's French, his parents are French, but he grew up with us everywhere, out on the land, in our friends' houses, going to the store, school, and he could speak Inuktitut. And I remember one time saying to him, because he was having trouble finding a steady relationship, and I said to him in Inuktitut, you need to be with a Inuk. You're Inuk. Like, duh. And that's what made sense to me, because we truly felt like he was one of us, So I guess that's like how they felt with you.
And I said it's like the Inuit have always adopted people. Adoption is very important.
Adoption is so important.
So in the history, there were quite a few cases of white people who were adopted by Inuit family. If they just worked like the Inuit, they learned the language and they went hunting and were useful. And they were most of them were men at the time, they were Matsunbe or whatever other people. And they really worked like Inuit, so they were.
And adopted for Khalunat means something different than adopted
of
for
course.
Inuit.
Oh, yes.
It's reality. There's no line between it.
An adopted child is really
your child.
Your child,
it's
of course.
your child. That's it. And so I always find that, because I have a son that we adopted too, and there's no line for me. No line.
Not at all.
There's no line for anybody, and it's hard to translate that to Khalunak people. Khalunak will be like, oh, what way did you do it, or how did you tell him, and that doesn't even equate into the way that we are. He's ours. We're together. We're a community. We're a people. We all are Inu Vogo. Yeah. So being adopted into Inuit is pretty special.
Yeah, but it's there's this what I was telling. It's no, it's I sometimes notice that when Inuit when we're like a mother was coming with her child and saying, Tiguara Piga, who is he or she is my little adopted, and saying the child was like that, was just happy. And in a way, for the child to be an adopted child would mean that he was chosen by his parents.
He's a gift.
He is a gift.
He is a gift.
Yeah, he is a gift. It's not just a child you had naturally.
He was more
it's,
special.
But he's more special than the
that's
his,
often what parents
biological.
say. That's what parents often say.
That's
it's
right.
like their own blood children are special, of course, but I've heard many parents say, but this one, because he was a gift, it's like there's no word in English for that, really. It's like even more precious than your own. So as we're coming to a close already, this went by so fast. What's a lesson from the North that you carry in your everyday life, Louis-Jacques?
I think one of the things I learned to quite early in the North was to try to smile as much as possible. But it's funny, but when I look at pictures of myself before, when I was in my teens or whatever, before going to North, I always like a face not so, I didn't smile much, and I would like to be, not angry, but that's
serious.
Serious, serious. But then in the North, I learned you have to smile, and it's the best way, when people, even when you are in front of people, and often people will like to tease you, just the best. And something like that, and you have just to laugh with them, and it's and that you can tease them. Or nowadays, when I go to, especially to Quaqtaq, people know me. I like to tease people, and they know that I'm not just doing just that for fun. So that's something I learned too in the North.
Yeah, when I'm down here, when strangers smile at me, I don't know what to do.
That's right.
I don't know how to react because I don't expect it.
Yeah, you're right.
Because I don't even smile back a lot of times.
No, you should smile back.
I should.
Yeah.
And I have to relearn that.
Yeah.
Up north, I'm always smiling at everybody. I mean, that's what everybody does.
Yes.
But down here, when I'm just crossing the street.
Sometimes it's difficult too. And you see so many people coming at you, you can't be smiling all the time.
When they smile at me, I'm like, are they smiling at me?
Yes.
So it was great to have you. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having invited me.
Quebec City mi pitsuti tamong ano nakoyo lawavit nakong meyoak nakok samarik ko. Ilaw kay nakavitak kani podcast won in Northern. Thank you so much for driving all the way here from Quebec City to join us. We really enjoyed this conversation. So everyone at home, thank you for your support. If you wish to support us further, be sure to head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/northern and join us over on Discord to keep this conversation going. Until next time. Yay!